I will lead you through this event. We are here at the Swedish Academy of Agriculture and Forestry in Stockholm, Sweden, and we have a direct connection to Belgium and the UK. A number of you are watching and listening to us on your computers or other platforms. You are all here. I would like to address to you, listen. You would please turn off your cameras and microphones so we don't get disturbance. But you're all very welcome anyway to listen to us. The purpose of this seminar is to promote a 2020 project called Data-Driven Dairy Decisions for Farmers, which is 4D4F, and to launch the first elements of this project. The purpose of this project is to promote the use of new improved digital sensor technologies in dairy farming, and therefore we also think it will improve. We believe these technologies competitiveness of the dairy farming sector. We need and would also appreciate your feedback to the speakers here. And you can use the Twitter and the email to send questions to us. The hashtag 4D4F or 4D4F.eu. Okay. We have 4 presentations today. I've done the opening. We first have David Gardner that will speak about the project. He is CEO at the Royal Agricultural Society in England and its branch Innovation for Agriculture, and he's also the coordinator of his of what is happening. Second is about farmers. Presentation would be about the farmers' reflection we need and how can this project help me. This was supposed to be presented by Tina Dahl, who's a dairy farmer, but due to some unfortunate, she's unable to come here today. So I personally will do that presentation. A great profile in dairy farming and has experience of the technologies for some years now, actually. Next, we'll have from will give a Delaval's vision of the present and the future. Please respect. And the last presentation by Christine Picard, who's a researcher at the Institute of Agriculture and Fisheries Researcher, which is called ILVO in Belgium. We'll talk a little bit and show a video on the practical aspects of new technology and precision livestock farming. Thereafter, there will be a discussion and your questions will be at the center of this event. So we move on now. First point of our presentation, and it's David Gardner who is given the word now for me. Please proceed with your talk, David, and when we find out when technology is working with us.
Good afternoon and welcome to this virtual media event for the project Data-Driven Dairy Decisions for Farmers, 4D4F. My name's David Gardner. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Innovation for Agriculture, and I'm the project coordinator for this project. Innovation for Agriculture is a consortium of 16 agricultural societies spread across England, using their network to disseminate new science and best practice to our farmer members and other local farmers. This project is the first Horizon 2020 project that we have been coordinators for, and its main deliverables include a community of practice. We wish to bring together farmers, vets, technology suppliers and researchers, and we'll do that both in real life in terms of meetings, but also through a web-based portal. We will deliver 10 best practice guides, 10 videos, 10 infographics, and indeed we have aspirations to do 12 of each of those, and also deliver a number of standard operating procedures in terms of how farmers should operate once the data has told them something. We're going to develop an online virtual warehouse of dairy sensors, and we have already delivered our first annual report on industry research and the innovation needs. And we will run the odd events across Europe, both on-farm events and workshops, where we'll be discussing these technologies with our local farmers. Before I go on and actually talk about the sensor technologies and the data that they produce to help farmers, I think it's worth quickly having a look at where dairying is across Europe right now. Farms are increasing in size. The number of cows on each farm is growing almost everywhere. Margins are really quite tight, and that results in there being less time available for each and every animal. And that can lead to potential welfare and performance issues. And of course, there's a risk that the job becomes increasingly desk-based, and farmers don't spend enough time actually with their cows looking after their husbandry. And we've been through quite a difficult period in European dairy farming. Prices have been poor. They're picking up at the moment. But really, the farmers have had about an 18-month period when the cost of production has exceeded their milk price. And they're facing an awful lot of challenges, including the profitability challenge that I've just talked about, but also all those issues associated with the wider society, the animal welfare issues, the consumer demands, the environmental pressures, as well as issues with the availability of labour on many farms. And then, of course, the succession issues, bringing the next generation in. And it's often when the next generation take control of the farming businesses that the sort of sensor technologies and so on are adopted and the farmer chooses to invest. So just a few words really on the sort of technologies that this project is all about. I often describe it as Fitbits for cows, the concept that we use sensor technologies that are in, near, or on cows, and they pick up information associated with the cow's movement, with how she's feeling, her temperature, and they relay that back to the office computer or the smartphone and allow farmers to make better decisions on the strength of the data that they've picked up. And there's a variety of really quite exciting technologies coming along in this space, and they're developing very fast. So here we see a heat detection collar, an accelerometer mounted on the cow's neck, very, very similar technology to the Fitbit. They pick up the cow's movement, so they set a base level of the cow's standard movement, and then they identify when that movement increases, particularly if she starts riding other cows in heat, and they'll flag that up to the farmer. But they can also pick up how much time the cow spends lying down, how much time she spends walking, and we can do sort of time budgets for cows and assess whether they're comfortable in their environment, and then potentially adapt the environment if they're not. Here we see the use of thermal cameras to potentially pick up hotspots on animals. This particular camera is looking at the cow's udder, looking for inflammation, looking for potential problems that the farmer might otherwise not spot. This is an automated body condition scoring system, the use of sensor technologies to identify if the cow is gaining or losing weight every time she leaves the parlour. She can be assessed, and it gives the farmer the opportunity to look at whole groups of animals in terms of whether they are losing weight too rapidly, whether they're not gaining weight fast enough, and to adjust the ration if required. Really smart technology, and body condition scoring is something that farmers have aspired to do for years, but it's always been very labour intensive and a little bit subjective. And this gives the farmer the real opportunity to review just how his cows are in terms of their condition. Here we see a fever tag, a temperature probe, a long temperature probe that goes down into the ear of the calf and will identify if she's running a temperature. And the tag flashes, and it warns the farmer that the calf is feeling slightly unwell before he would otherwise notice it, and gives him the opportunity to intervene, treat the animal, possibly avoid the use of antibiotics, and get it up and well again, and growing in the shortest possible time. We're also using boluses. I'm sure some of you remember from your school days or your university days that a cow has 4 stomachs. Well, any heavy object will settle in the second stomach that's called the reticulum. And we've used that for years with things like worming boluses and magnets to pick up stray bits of metal. But here we see a smart bolus, boluses that will pick up the cow's inner body temperature, also bodies that will pick up boluses that will pick up the pH in the cow's rumen, so potentially identify acidosis at the earliest opportunity. Quite an expensive bolus, that one. So you wouldn't put one in every cow, but you might put it in, say, 1 in 20 as a sentinel cow that would warn you that there was an issue with the ration, again, at the earliest opportunity. And then finally, we see the concept of smart buildings. Buildings that can measure their humidity, their temperature, measure wind speed and so on, and then buildings that will adapt based on that information and data. So here we see a building that has retractable sides and retractable roofs, and it can withdraw the roofs when the weather is fine. It can bring sunscreens down if it's too sunny, and can create the ideal environment in which the cow will be comfortable. Now that's technology that's coming, but there's research being done into it, and it really creates the concept of quite an exciting future. So in terms of how we're going to deliver the project, we have established 12 what we call special interest groups. 4 of them are fairly obvious really in terms of udder health and mastitis, lameness, nutrition and reproduction. But also we've got special interest groups in data management, so how you amalgamate all this data, pull it together and create useful information from it. On milking data, so the information that we can pick up in the milking parlour, not just on individual yields, but also testing the milk for things like progesterone and ketosis. Activity and behaviour, we can now, as I said earlier, do time budgets for cows. We can identify if they're spending too much time standing up and can make adjustments accordingly. We've also got a special interest group on metabolic diseases that ties back in with nutrition. So using sensor technologies to pick up things like milk fever, ketosis, acidosis and so on, and make management changes accordingly. I've already talked about housing, but we're also going to look at the external environment, what goes on when a cow is out at grass, measuring grass yields, things like virtual fencing and so on that will make business management decisions better for the farmer and make him able to adjust his management accordingly. And I also talked about the fever tags and young stock, and we'll be looking at things like automatic calf feeders and the data they produce, also genomic selection and making sure that we're selecting the best stock available to us. And then finally, we're going to have a special interest group on dairy goats, because this is a dairy project, not just a cow project. And there's a significant goat herd across Europe, from very big 1,000 goat plus units right through to small units up in the hills and the mountains that produce artisan cheese. And so the big units might adopt a similar technology to the ones that the cows use. The smallest units might use GPS trackers so they can identify where the goats are in terms of bringing them into milk. The project is built around this community of practice. The special interest groups will be based within that, we will be really running discussion groups within the community of practice. We hope that people will engage, talk to us about these technologies. We'll also be producing newsletters, and as I've said, the best practice guides, and in due course there will be videos and infographics and so on. And this particular graphic picks up how we hope that farmers, vets, advisors, technology suppliers and the research community will communicate and learn from each other, and help. 2 things really. One is to accelerate the adoption of these technologies on farm, and the other one is to improve the speed of their development with the technology suppliers and the research community. So the benefits: learn from shared experience. We're developing a comprehensive source of knowledge with the best and latest know-how, and that's changing very, very fast as new technologies come along. We hope to help farmers really make the best in terms of return of investment, and also help farmers, help researchers to identify where the research needs are and where they're, and ultimately make easier and better decisions on farm, and also improve the quality of life for the farmer and the cows, and the cows and the goats. And of course, the project's fully funded, so it's free. This is the homepage of our website, www.4d4f.eu. Please come and join us. Have a look at the website, have a look at the material that's currently there. We will be adding material to it over a period of time. And we hope really that you will engage in the discussions with us. We will look forward to seeing you at some of our events. And over the next 2 years, we hope we can engage on a regular basis with you, that you'll keep coming back to us, getting involved in the forums, and we look forward to that. So thank you very much for listening. In a few moments, we'll be listening to some farmers who've adopted some of this technology, and later on in the event there will be a demonstration of how the website works. Thank you.
Earlier European project, the Smart Farming for Europe, ECPLF, and she did try out things there and was kind of a pioneer for this. She runs a farm in the southwest of Sweden, which have a lot of forest and grasslands, and it's quite a wet countryside of Sweden also, a lot of rainfall. And in this context, this farm has an acreage of 284 hectares, which is fairly big for Sweden in this respect. Most of it is grass, produced silage, half of it, some grains, some grazing, some other areas, and semi-natural grasslands are 7 hectares, which is quite large but very important also in these areas. The farm has grown. Tina and her husband started up in 1980 with 50 cows, and they moved on to 70 cows and one employee, and the family. She has a son also that's interested of continue this farm after the parents are gone from the business, and they've invested to have 240 cows in 2013. So it's rather new investment here. So growing at this speed and being able to manage all the technology, all the cows, they need a lot of technology to be introduced in the farm, like automatic feeders and also computer system to actually control what's happening here. And the dairy barn is quite spacious, but also simple, as you see at the feeding manger here. There is a couple of robots, and you could see also the cubicles that are also quite spacious and comfortable for the cows. And of course, this is what they aim to work with. It's the comfort and welfare of the cows, how they rest, how they walk around, and all the activities are around. And they have invested in a Cowview system, which is by Gaia, same as the robots. And this Gaia system controls the position of a cow a couple of times every second, so we know when the cows are actually moving or they're standing still, or if they are in the cubicles, or if they are at the feeding manger, for example. And so different activities can be sorted out from this position system. And there are a lot of antennas also in the ceiling of the barn here, which you don't see, but there's a number of antennas capturing the position of the animals. And by algorithms, you could calculate different things, and you visualize this by giving this type of diagram showing how much animals spend in cubicles, how often they go, how much they're standing, the standing frequency, the eating time and eating frequency, walking time and walking distance. So that comes all from algorithms developed from the position data. And of course, this looks like a very, very normal cow. She's in the normal field of a green, and if she's doing too little or too much, you could she will be in the red field for too little or too much in the blue field. And this is a very normal cow, so she doesn't need any extra attention. But if you have something like this, the bold line here is the cow profile, and if cow here is probably walking a long distance, uses cubicle very often and stands very much. Standing frequency is also but very high, but the eating time and walking time eating frequency is very low. So there is something wrong with this cow, so it needs separation and attention given to her. So this visualization helps out for the farmer very much and appreciate it very much to select the cows that need attention before they end up as a carcass on the farm, which is not a valuable product, it's just a cost. So the results of the farm, they started in 2014 with this, and these are the yearly means, but you could see that 2014, 12 and 13, the next year, the frequencies of mastitis and lameness have been lowered in 2015 and 16. You can see substantially lower in 2016 at least, a bit lower also for the lameness in 2015. And so it really seems to have an effect here. Here they could support treatment of the cows, which means less antibiotics, less costs and better animal welfare. So it's very important that these things really help farmers, and it's on this farm they really benefited from it. Summarizing here, the use today of a Cowview system is that we use it for finding the cows that are late for milking. So we have a position of a cow, and we could just go out and track her down to the milking unit. And they also will get cows in heat, which is one of the major tools they could using it, and also the cows that are not acting normal, low activity, and everything that deviates from the normal is detected here, and they could actually separate these cows. So there are some dreams and wishes also. It's in the countryside, so sometimes the speed of the data connection is not that high, and sometimes it takes some time for them to get back the data, and they want that being much faster. There would be a certain degree of some seconds, for example, on the position data, but they're working on that, I guess. And also some more integration, farm management, getting more integration. Robot also is on a separate system, but should be more integrated. And also the more continuous updating with the farm management, so they could actually get good predictions of the future. And also the feeding system also needs to be integrated in this system. So that's one of some of the wishes they have, but this is just a development phase, I guess, and we are doing this. Right, so that was the last slide for Tina Dahl. And we're very sorry she can't be here, but that's the thing we have today. Now we introduce our industrial partner, or one of the industrial partners of a project, and that's Mr. René Kolbach from De Laval, and he will give his vision of his project, and we'll just switch the slides and so it's just here we go. René, are you about to be ready?
There we go. And it works. Good start. All right. Thank you. It's great to be here today, looking at a half full room of people, about I believe 50 people online. So it's great to be part of this here today and sharing our vision a little bit as well as one of the market leaders in Laval in farm management there. Now we got no. Oh, there it comes back. All right, so what I wanted to start highlighting is I grew up on a dairy farm in the Netherlands, and about 2002 my parents started to invest in milk robots. So if you start looking back in time, precision dairy farming technology is out there already for quite a while. It's just a matter of how do we start using these technologies. And if I look at my grandpa when he was a bit younger, it was only a matter of 50 years before we saw the whole development of coming from milking by hand out in the paddocks to actually fully automatically milking cows. And one step on top of that these days is measuring actually a lot of data of those cows. The next question is, what are we going to do with all that data? By starting off with, I want to make a statement that with whatever we do in life, if we can't measure things, we can't manage them either. So with data, we're going to be able to make more informed decisions and start planning our way forward. And the main focus here is around sensor technology, but I also want to stress that if we look into farm management systems, it's very important that we also work with data on a cow level that is accurate, meaning that we should not be able to record, for example, a cow that is going to calve that never had actually insemination before. It might sound very simple, but in order to have really good quality data and tell those sensors what to measure in which part of the lactation, we definitely need to know also where in the lactation these kind of animals are. If we then start a little bit talking about system integration, if I put a little bit of a slide, we have a lot of different sensors these days available within the industry, also from us there, that are measuring different areas on the animal. So if I would start talking about what earlier was highlighted, something quite recently introduced is the body condition scoring camera, meaning that every time a cow finishes milking, from a robot or also CMS system with the milking parlor, fully automatically a body condition score of a cow is measured. And from there we start to make sure that within the farm management software we start to analyze what is going on with this cow in which state of her lactation. I will not go through every single sensor there, but what I want like to highlight is that anywhere from activity high or low, milk measurements, the passages of an animal through gates in the barn to feed consumption, somatic cell counts, everything is integrated within one farm system. I heard already earlier that system integration is one of the wishes, but definitely we do see that having everything integrated to one central place, being able to manage one central area is key going forward into the future. We don't want to have farmers managing 3-4 different types of software in order to make one decision what to do with an animal. So system integration will definitely be key going forward. Just to highlight one of the tools that we have those days is the herd navigator, which is basically measuring at predicted times within the lactation the progesterone levels. So in this case, what we basically see is level alarms and the data over time from an animal. And what we see is that when a cow loses her corpus luteum, we see a drop in the level of progesterone. And at the set point of 5 nanograms, we detect that within the last 5 days, the progesterone has been dropping, meaning that she's coming in heat. And what we then following see after that is that she has a nice 21-day cycle. Unfortunately, after an insemination, she did not conceive. The second time around, we inseminated animal again, and we find her pregnant, because when the cow is pregnant, the fetus start to produce after the corpus luteum progesterone, meaning that we can measure this and we can identify this as being pregnant at that point in time of the lactation, which is then indicated here on that graph of that individual cow. So that's just one example, and I don't have the time today to go through all the other sensors, but we have a lot of information coming available about individual animals to start making decisions on her. But then when we talk about data, we see all those sensors, and it's all in the media, big data here and there. It's also playing a big part in the dairy farming industry, but we've got to make sure that the data becomes actually a power on the farm, because it's also quite a risk that we're trying to find a needle in the haystack. Which cow do I actually need to treat at which point in time? But we need to be sure that the data gets transformed in a way that at least we know what we start doing. And that's one of the first things that we believe we need to design our systems in a way that actually fits the purpose, what we're looking for. So what do we try to achieve when looking in this data? So what we see there is that how we start to analyze things is from a clear distinction. Well, first of all, I want to know in general how the performance of my farm is going. Before I start going into the performance of different animal groups, before I start looking at individual animals within the farm that I want to treat actually. Because I know I'm coming from a farm, we don't have the time to sit there looking through each individual animal in order to spot the one that needs our attention. So first of all, going from high level to low level. And within each area, within the programs, we should make sure that we can go from top level views down into the endless details where we want and have time for to do so. If I just take a little example, here we start seeing our monitor board where we try to indicate in 3 defined areas what we got to do today. Meaning that first of all on the left hand side we start seeing an overview of which cows are at this point in time in the different reports at the attention lists, which is customizable in that case. But also what we want to indicate here is that we have the top view of the farm, the performance in terms of production levels per day, production levels per cow, but also related to that deviations from the norm, in this case the deviations from the last 7 days. But also we start showing already a little bit of a longer term analysis or a trend from the last 30 days per animal milking group. So it's easy to spot that one of those groups has kind of an increasing trend in terms of kilos milk per day. The right hand side, just a short summary about the reproduction. So capturing basically animal attentions, performance of the farm, and also how the current status is on the farm when it comes to the reproductive performance. Well, if I have a little bit more time, when we look at this case into parlor farms, we can go a little bit deeper into the information, showing there in the left hand side with this big clock, a 24-hour period, when each milking started, how long it lasted. In this case, the farm was milking 20 days, 20 hours during that day. And with that, we analyze a bit more in details the number of rotations they had versus their standard, the milk yield in total for the sessions, the milk yields per hour, and the cows per hour. So starting to show not only data from the animals, but also start focusing on how are we actually working inside of the milk parlor and how efficient are we. If we start to see deviations, well, obviously we should be able to intervene and get more into the over people within the milking parlors and their milking routines as such. And talking about milking routines, well, if people have more time on their hand and need to be on top of their management with their milkers, this is maybe it looks a bit busy of a line, but it basically indicates the time of the milking on the x-axis, the y-axis, the milking point numbers, meaning that it is very easy to spot, for example, when a cow came in and how long it took before they were actually attached for milking, showing to me basically that a lot of cows were here standing around doing not much other than waiting for the milker to be showing up for milking, versus on the other end the milkings that appear much quicker after they've been identified and entered these parlors. So again, high level first, showing you briefly how quick a milking session is, going down into the details to find where we have improvement areas. Just something else, when we talk about data, we also start talking about data and data comparisons with other farmers. So we from the Laval are currently working on the project and a product that is called a 360-degree report, where we start uploading reports or data actually to our cloud, where we start to compute reports that are easy to understand, and those reports are then enriched with benchmark data, meaning that, okay, from a select within my country or from the countries from the globe, we can then see the performance, how I relate to it. This is just one of the first things that we then are able to do, is that, okay, we have a robot that is performing about 6 per milking, but where am I standing compared to a benchmark group? Just to get a better understanding of, this is my performance of the farm, but how do I relate to farmer in the benchmark group? So one of those things then is just a quick overview in terms of where do we look at with those sort of things. First of all, we look into what is the trend today compared to the last 3 months, which is, for example, in the left-hand side corner. We have a number of KPIs, and the KPIs that deviates the most will be shown on this kind of dashboard, showing that at that point in time, which areas do I and improve the performance of the farm. And then we start going into details of the lactation performance. Meaning that not only we get reports, but also start to visualize them together with benchmarks, how a performance of those lactation 1 cows are. When we talk about cow traffic in voluntary milking systems, we also want to know what period of the day do I have still some potential to milk more with the system. So just a little example there in the left-hand side corner is that from that point in time we can see at which times of the day we have a bit of a dip, meaning that maybe we need to change our feeding strategies in order to get equal cow traffic through the night. Yeah, because if we have a milk system there 24 hours a day capable of taking on milkings, we got to make sure that it actually fills up with milkings. Otherwise we're wasting time of this system there. I will not go into too much detail there further because what we then have to be aware of is that with all this data, the next thing that we need to know is what are we going to do with it? Right, because a lot of data, well, fun, but not everybody has hours a day to actually start finding what to do next. So we try to make that as simple as possible. Also, within the back of our mind that farms get bigger, even though we see a big share of farm management or robotic systems around the world, we want to make sure that those parlor-based farms are able to train their labor in as easy as possible way. Meaning that we start to work with standard operating procedures. What does that mean? I will take a little example, is that if we look at a fresh cow, I travel a bit around the world, the scariest period is that when you take off, that's the same as a fresh cow. If something goes wrong in that first 30 days in milk, and she doesn't really perform, something goes horribly wrong for the rest of the lactation. So take all the data points we have already today, within each system, for example, production levels, lactation numbers, we start to throw them into a very farm-specific standard operating procedure, and rather showing the data, we get to action points, which are basically on the right-hand side, what we should do with. So coming from basically boring reports, it shows very quickly that it's not an attention, but I need to take actions with those cows and do what with them, because that's how I normally treat those animals, making it very equalized across the farm, what to do with the animals that appear on those reports. But then just the last statement there. I mean, again, with all that data, it's fun to have, but at the end of the day, everything runs around good farm managers. I've seen farms around the world that work with a lot of data, they use it in a proper way. They go out there, put their boots on, and make sure that the cows are actually being checked on the right times. Because data by itself is not it's just a tool for our farmers to make sure that we are actually taking the right decisions in an as quick as possible way in order to prevent cows from going down within their lactation. So with that, I'm wrap up. So basically what we get is we go from data to real farm management decision tools, and that's with the 44F. It's all about those decisions that we quickly can make based on all those information points. And we see that more and more sensors becoming available, but we need to learn how to use them. And that's where we come together with advisory organizations, with feeding, with projects like this, is how do we train our users in working with the technologies as good as they can. And from there, we need actions and improve what is going on the farm. So with that, just the beginning, there's many more things ahead of us, beautiful things, but at the end of the day, we need to have the right farm managers out there and making sure that they keep their cows on track. So with that, thank you. I will hand it back over.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, René. It's a lot of things happening in this field, and we can see the products are coming and how to use them and how users would benefit from. Now we will move on to the final contribution today. It's from Christine Picard of Ilvo in Belgium, and I think we'll see a video you have prepared. But now over to you, Christine. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm here. I hope that everyone can hear me. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christine Picard, and I'm a research associate at the Flanders Research Institute for Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, or ILVO in short. Medicine, and I'm fascinated with all the new sorts of data that have been collected in dairy farms over these last years. It makes my job very challenging, but very rewarding. Also, when we get to turn that data into meaningful and practical applications that benefit both the farmer and the cows. What we want to do within this project, but on a European level. And today I would like to show you a 6-minute video about the work that we have done so far. Within the project, we have launched a so-called community of practice. We are trying people from different backgrounds together. So dairy farmers, advisors, veterinarians, researchers, and technology providers. And we provide them a platform where they can learn about practical issues of sensor technology and share their experience and expertise. By showing you this video, we would like to inspire you and stimulate you to join our community, even set up your own local chapter in your region. But anyway, I think I've said enough, and it's time to show you the video now. So back to Sweden, I would say.
Video here, I'll start it now.
The European dairy industry has been through some significant changes over the last decennia. European dairy farms may be dwindling in numbers, but herds are continuing. The average herd size has increased with almost 52% in 12 years. And with milk prices under pressure, farmers are being faced with the challenge of operating their farms efficiently and with minimal labor costs. New sensor technologies can offer a helping hand to dairy farmers in their daily management. Just think of heat detection systems, automatic milk analysis, rumination collars, automatic lameness detection, and so on. However, as more and more data is being collected on dairy farms, the question arises, what do we do with all this data? How do we translate data into meaningful actions? And which technologies should we invest in? Before farmers can successfully implement data into their daily management, the following steps need to take place. First, something has to be measured. Let's say, for example, the activity of the cow. This data has to be stored somewhere and then analyzed. The results of the data analysis should be transformed into a user-friendly form of decision support for the farmer, who ultimately has to take the right action. For instance, the farmer should know whether or not to inseminate the cow based on the collected data. In practice, the farmer is often supported by different actors, who all focus on one or more steps of the decision-making process. For one, there are technology providers that develop sensor technologies and software companies that construct platforms for handling the vast amount of data. Researchers, on the other hand, come up with the right algorithms for processing the data and deriving scientifically sound information. Advisors and veterinarians must then be able to translate this information into a comprehensible decision support system for the farmers, who then must take action. And that's where 4D4F comes in. To help transform dairy data into actions, the 4D4F project has launched a so-called community of practice. A community of practice is a group of people who share a common concern, a set of problems, or an interest in a certain topic, and who come together to fulfill both individual as well as group goals. At the foundation of the community of practice lies a combination of learning and doing, in this case on the subject of dairy data and sensor technology. As we mentioned before, this community consists of various actors, of course the farmers themselves, but also the advisors and the veterinarians, supply chain actors, technology providers and researchers. All these actors have a different set of skills, expertise and background knowledge, so they can approach the issue from completely different angles. People join a community of practice together ready to use information for their private affairs, while at the same time serving a common goal determined by the group. For example, a farmer may join to improve his heat detection rate, while a vet would want to improve his advisory or communication skills. To get started with the local chapter of the 4D4F community, the Belgian project set up a series of meetings, workshops and farm visits in Belgium. The first event was held at the Flanders Research Institute for Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, or ILVO, on the 7th of February. Around 40 dairy farmers and agricultural advisors came together to share their questions, experience and expertise. We started off by confronting the audience with a series of questions and statements on the use of data in several areas, and then going into detail on certain data or sensor-related issues, like the use of milking robot data for diagnosing ketosis, or the reliability of different kinds of heat detection systems. In the afternoon, the group paid a visit to Ilvo's dairy farm. The research farm is equipped with different state-of-the-art sensor technologies, like the green feed system that measures methane and carbon dioxide emissions from the cow's exhaled breath, or the Incentec feed bins that can measure the individual feed intake of cows. Ilvo is currently also working on Gatewise, a pressure-sensitive mat equipped with sensors for detecting lame cows. Although these face-to-face meetings are important for people to get to know each other, setting up a community of practice is about more than organizing a constant effort to engage farmers and other agricultural stakeholders on an ongoing basis. Luckily, the 4D4F website provides a valuable resource to continue the community of practice online and to broaden the community over Europe. The website enables users to upload documents, start discussions, and upload and comment on photos. Would you like to join our virtual community? Registering is easy. Just go to the 4D4F website and click on the orange button Join Now. You'll be asked to fill in a standard form and pick a username. Once you've registered, you can log on to the website and get access to all kinds of learning tools, such as best practice guides, standard operating procedures, case studies, videos and more, all organized by topic. The website is divided into several topics, or so-called interest groups, where farmers and other experts can further discuss and advance their knowledge on specific themes on a European level. So if you want to get more out of dairy data and sensors, then join our community today, and we will put you in touch with your local 4D4F contact point.
Thank you, Anders. My name is Lennart Wikström. I'm a Master of Science in Agriculture, and I'm the Managing Director of a publishing company. I'm also the Chief Editor of a magazine in the agricultural area called Lantbrukets Affärer, the farmer's business. What we will do now is first I would like to point out the very importance of this project, that there's a lot of partners involved in trying to make this new technology available to farmers and to implement it, both for advisors and for farmers. As you can see from this picture, we have a lot of scientific and implementary research organizations and institutes, and also commercial organizations. We have David Gardner, who is the coordinator. He is from the Innovation for Agriculture, as has mentioned. You have already met Christine from Ilvo in Belgium. In the Estonian Agriculture University, you have David Arni and Latvian Academy of Science, Sandhya Sveta-Ripsa. You have at the Romanian Agriculture University, Gina Fintinero, from KSLA and this Agriculture University in Sweden, Margareta Emanuelsson. We have Ida, who has been trying to connect all during this event, but has had a lot of problems. She is with the IRTA in Spain. We have Deborah Piette at the Katholieke Universiteit in Leuven in Belgium. From ZLTO in Netherlands, Peter Paris. We have Luc Sobri from Wim Govertz and Company in Belgium. Isaac Matamoros from Knowledge Information Market, KIM in Spain. Nadia Teuma from Paragon Europe, Malta. And Kes Lokorts from Van Hal Larenstein University of Applied Sciences in Netherlands. Nis Achten Liba, Belgium. Lars Bergman from Davao, Sweden. And Christoph Mertens from Porphyrio, Belgium. They are all either the representation sitting in the steering committee or from day-to-day representatives for this project. It's difficult when you have so many active nodes, but the idea is that for each of you, you have a local contact point. And therefore, I recommend you to visit and use the website in order to get in touch with the organization or with the person that is closest to you. As you can see under the project, you have partners. And here you can connect with the partners closest to you. So now we go over to questions and answers. We have the opportunity now for you to use not only these two channels with Twitter and mail, there's also a chat function on the meeting room. And I know that a lot of you have already been on there and tried to ask questions. My difficulty here will be to coordinate all these questions coming up. But actually, I have one starting out now. It's from Phil Christopher in UK. And he has a question which is sort of technical. A lot of the sensors that we have been talking about, they are registering data from, for instance, the milking robot or with a sensor on the cow. But he has a question regarding cameras. Can they be used also for auto measures of locomotion scores? And I would say that would be a question maybe for you, Renee. You see.
All right, thank you. Well, what I can say is that recently we had the development of 3D imaging cameras, like the body condition scoring camera, as part of utilizing kind of a new technology coming up with the cameras of scoring animals and animals' well-being. At this point in time, no, there is no camera that is measuring the locomotion scoring. I know that in Ilvo they've been doing some research on either or the cameras, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. the mouth where they're walking over. But definitely, if this is not something that is there now, the cameras are continuing to be improved. This might definitely be something that we'll see more of in the future.
I can see now that Phil, he had an interesting comment. When he saw this map that they were using at ILVO, he sort of got an answer on his question. But okay, we have a comment from Anders as well. Please come up.
Yes, I mean, cameras are very, very beneficial because we don't have to put things on the cows. We could just have a camera, but it is technically a real challenge, and you need a much mathematics and deep mathematics and machine learning and so on. But it is possible. We are currently doing a research on social interactions between animals. It's a new field, but we are actually making it work with cameras. And there are also other camera applications, for example, with a top-down view of the cameras to record if a cow is arching her back or if she has a straight back, and that would be a sign of of lameness, for example. That has been investigated by the Belgium and Italian research groups, for example. So there are possibilities with using cameras. So, yeah, I'll end there.
Thank you, Anders. Christine, do you have a comment on the question of camera or as a sensor and register?
Whether to choose between a camera for locomotion measurement or a pressure mat. I think both systems could have their benefits, but both are still in research stage, so not ready for practice yet. We are ILVO, we're currently working on the gate-wise, as I mentioned in the video, which measures the way the cows place their feet on the mat, and the pressure as well, of course. And Leuven is working, Leuven, the one you mentioned before, is working on the camera system. But as far as I know, both systems are still in research phase.
David, are you with us? David, are you with us? Okay. He's not with us right now. I have another question. All this new technology, of course, costs a lot of money. There is some kind of investment threshold in order to be able to use it and to draw the benefits from it. And I have a question to Renee from Margareta Emanuelsson. She asks, how big of a herd do you need to gain from investment in a herd navigator? What do you recommend? Do you have a recommendation there, Renee?
If I have a recommendation, I'm not sure about that, but definitely if I look in our farms around the world, they vary in size. We have farms even in Saudi Arabia that at the time are working with the system, meaning that they have 3,000 cows working with it. But the majority of our farms definitely are on our automatic milking segment with the VMS, meaning 50, 120 cows is still probably the majority there. Yes, when you talk about things are very expensive, it's a bit the different way how to look at it probably as well. If we are capable of making cows faster in heat, because that's still one of the biggest problems to get cows pregnant is first of all finding them in heat. If we can improve our performance there, an expensive product, if I use those words, is very easily back in a way, because at the end of the day we need to have the cows pregnant and producing again in order to continue milking.
So you have sort of a meeting, two factors meeting each other. The cost of investment goes down and the size of farms go up, so the threshold will be easier to reach tomorrow.
Definitely. It's I mean, the old precision dairy farming technologies are coming up, so the more we get those exposures out there, the more we can determine where, in this case, this optimal is.
we often associate new technology with big farms and new investments. Is that the fact when you look at this new sensor technology? Are there the bigger farms, or is it the farmer who is the key factor when you start to invest and use this new technology? Start with René. I think this could be answered by more than him.
Okay, if I look at the technologies, and one of the biggest examples I think around the world still today is the milking robots, and what you see there is a lot of data is measured within one system. Still, the majority of the farms are actually the smallholder dairy farms around Europe. We do see an increased trend also, for example, a farm in Chile over the other day, 64 robots. So yes, you see also the bigger ones. From experience, also looking at, for example, your activity meeting systems, I still believe that it started off with the smaller ones and starts to move now to the bigger scale dairies. Mainly because also is that one farm manager needs to handle the whole farm operation by themselves, and how can he optimize that the most is by means of sensors. Though we do see a shift in this to also very large dairies, meaning 60,000 cows, that they start to equip those sort of technologies. So that is also coming, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And also when you have employed personnel, it's very important that they have the right education level in order to operate and analyze and operate and the system.
That's an interesting topic, because if we were on a farm with 10,000 cows, obviously you can imagine there's a lot of different employees running around. Then it's our task as system providers that we provide a system and not just a sensor, and combining all that information in place and going towards a action-based directive, so to say. So rather than seeing the cow, we fully automatically start sorting them. We start to present reports automatically printed, which this group of people need to work with. So we need to become very directive and advising what to start doing.
Thank you, René. I would like to direct the same question to you, Christine. Can you see sort of a threshold or a type of farmer who is implementing this new technology? Can you please wait till... Wait, Christine, so we have your voice.
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Go on.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute my microphone.
Those things happen.
So, yes, we have done research on that topic, and we saw that it was regarding heat detection systems, that it was mostly the younger farmers with bigger farms who make the most use of those technologies, which isn't at all that surprising, if you ask me.
No.
Can I come in and comment there, if you can hear me?
Yes, please, David, come in.
Sorry, we had problems with the microphone earlier, and we've rebooted, and it would appear it's working again. I think what's quite interesting, if you look at the adoption of milking robots, is they've tended to be adopted by the sort of more medium-sized farm. The very, very big farms, the sort of 500 cow plus units, have gone down the rotary milking parlour. Where either one or two robots would work for them, who tended to adopt the milking robots, complete with all the sort of sensor technologies they come with. And I think what's quite interesting there is one of the drivers behind the adoption of this technology is often a lifestyle choice. So I think it's very easy to say that it'll just be the big farms that will adopt it, and invariably it is. But there's also an element of lifestyle choice associated with adopting some of this technology in terms of making life easier for the farmer.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, David. I'd like to turn the word over to Anders regarding the implementation and adoption of new technology. Do you have anything to comment on that?
Yes, I mean, we see that Sweden is behind many countries in Europe in the herd size, but we are getting bigger herds, and we see the quite many of the robotic herds, and they are having like units of 60, and next one is 120. And this herds definitely, I think, benefits from taking advantage of these systems here, and they increase the efficiency. I've contacted just anecdotally with a herd that invested in these technologies. It was a cow manager system, and they improved their fertility rates and had actually too many cows calving in 1 month, 9 months after investment, which was kind of a funny observation. But I think they will definitely improve in efficiency and also making things easier on the farm, making things smoother. I mean, one of the things that really lacks on dairy farms is work time. They have worked so much and they really need some relief, and I think that's a benefit. Thank you.
Too many calves, that must be wrong in the right direction.
Yes, because you have a limited number of cow places.
Okay, thank you. I'll see if we have any more questions from the audience. Otherwise, I can go back to some of my prepared questions. From Tina's presentation, we could see a significant improvement in animal health. Is that something that you can confirm from other farmers or studies, either in Sweden, Belgium, or UK?
Who goes first?
Yeah, you can go first, Christine.
Well, it's a very complex question because there are many different sensor technologies out there, as you know. And I'm not fully aware of any research that studies a direct link between, let's say, precision dairy farming in general or the implementation of it versus a decrease in the use of antibiotics, for instance. But, however, I must say that when you think of dairy data, that can be applied as well to reduce the antibiotic use on a dairy farm. Think of the example of selective dry cow treatment. When you decide on whether or not to treat a cow based on her current somatic cell count and her previous history. So I guess in that sense, it completely reduce the use of antibiotics and also increase the health on a dairy farm.
So you can confirm the anecdotal picture that Tina gave us from her farm?
I would say that it's more, it depends more on the farmer than on the use technology, of course.
Okay. Thank you. David, do you have a comment?
I'm not aware of any specific research, but I think one of the things that drives investment in a lot of these technologies is the benefits you're going to get from them to some extent will depend on where you're starting from. And if you have a farm that has a particularly high level of performance in terms of heat detection, very low levels of mastitis, very low levels of lameness, they have less to gain than the farm that has perhaps a greater problem. And so I think where to invest with these technologies is very much about identifying the weaknesses on the individual farms, tying them in with the KPIs that you want to implement on those, then investing where you'll get the best return on your investment if you can create an improvement. And assuming that you're monitoring properly and the sensor technology is implemented properly, you would expect to get an improvement. So I would agree with Christine that it's actually quite a complex picture.
Okay, thank you. Anders, do you have a comment?
There is definitely, I think, a shift in how we look upon dairy farming and calling the vet when the cow's sick. And I mean, just talking and having these anecdotes from farmers, which, well, not scientifically, but still there is some weight in that information, that the farmers actually say we capture these problems early on, and it saves labor, and it saves medicine, it saves veterinary costs and so on, and they could actually see the books, the economics of it also. So there's definitely things there, and it definitely would pay some more attention in field or epidemiological research here. And of course, I completely agree with Christine here, but it's really dependent on the farmer. If a farmer is not really interested in his or her cows, it will be a problem. Despite the technology, you have to be interested in your cows.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Anders. I have some comments on the chat which I would like to share with you. Something happened here. We got hung. Okay. But I also stuck. Something happened. So I had on the chat, which I lost for a moment here, some comments on cost analysis, because we are very much talking about economy and herd size, but is there done any true cost analysis on this new technology? A question to Renee, maybe?
It's when you talk about the technology and cost analysis, it's a very interesting area, definitely. When I would speak from our experience, it's for example our BCS farms. Definitely, we can indicate, for example, where herd is overfeeding or being underfed. Large costs are being saved when we can correct this. When we're out there on farms, it's always on individual farms, so let me not make statements on scientific evidence there, but definitely on our farms that we can improve these sort of areas. There is big financial gains there. But at the end of the day, what I said earlier as well, yes, we provide the data, but at the end of the day, we need to make people change probably their old habits. If they cannot change their habits with the use of the data, then there will also not be gain. So it's a bit of a question how we can implement it on those individual farms under these individual circumstances.
Thank you, Renee. I also had on the chat a question about integrating system, which brings me back to Tina's list of dreams and wishes. She had wishes about faster and continuous updating so that she could get good access, real-time access to data. She also wanted more integration and continuous updating with the farm management systems that she has. More direct information from the robot and integration with the feeding system. Are these things that you hear from farmers a lot, Renee?
Definitely. I believe that when we talk about system integration, it's something that is quite close to our heart. When we talk about the different sensors, different milking systems, and here we're not only talking about robotic systems, but also the milking parlor systems these days, we get much more data available in one central place. So we do see it from our smaller farms, from our bigger ones, so basically all across that stretch. That we want information from the different sensors in one central place. So I can only agree with her there. And that is definitely something that we've been working a lot with, very hard on, to get one central place to provide this information to make those very directive decisions.
David, Christine, do you have any comments on her wishes to get a more integrated system?
I mean, this is a comment that we hear all the time, really, in terms of emerging technologies, and we've heard it for years. Terrible farmers as well, really, in that they would like to see systems integrated. It's one of those things that takes time, and there's also the issues associated with the manufacturers, for obvious reasons, wanting to, if you like, promote a package of products. And I think that's one of the decisions a farmer has to make when he decides how he's going to invest. Do you look, if you like, a whole herd system, or do you perhaps invest in a number of isolated systems that won't necessarily talk to each other? So it's an ongoing challenge. We hear it all around society. It's not just associated with dairy sensor technologies. I suspect over time it will slowly get better, and the sort of deeply integrated packages will improve. But I suspect the best integrated packages will come from one manufacturer, if you like, as a sort of mega package.
Okay, thank you. Christine, do you have a comment?
Well, I agree with both Renee and David, of course, but I think another interesting point is that not only integration of different systems, but also integrating some kind of decision tool. For instance, a sensor can tell you, okay, the electrical conductivity of the milk is up, but do you have to treat the cow or not, or will she heal by herself? Those types of decisions are left up to the farmer now, and it would be great if we could somehow give a decision together with the alarm as well.
I have some very relevant comments on the chat. I'd like to read them for you. There's a lot of anecdotal evidences. I mean, there's a lot to do on the research side and systematic aggregation of data here, both on the return on investment and on effects on health. There is still need for more research. But that is farm-centric, which means that with a well-equipped farm, full-size farm, you can do research on the farm. So you don't have to you can use farms for the research. And also, I have a comment here from Ulf. There's also a need to set up sensor validation protocols, like there is now on milk meters, possibly a task for ICAR. That was more a specialist comment, I think. But the validation of sensors and tests for standard protocols for sensors is, I think, a very important area, especially when you talk about integrating systems. Very valid comment. A comment from Steven Sievert, Chair ICAR. He says that the Recording Devices Subcommittee, ICAR has established a sensor task force currently working on this. Great, Ulf says. Okay, we have development in different areas. We have development of the unmanned flying vehicles, drones. We have development of smartphones with different sensors, with near-field chips, possibility to read different codes. We also have development on sensors for other areas, in veterinarian areas, pets and things like that. Will that come into the area of 4D, 4F, you think? I know that you have been in contact with the Sony Mobile.
Yes, they are listening to us as well. So, I mean, so a great provider of technology, and we are just looking forward to work with them in this field as well. So I can't say much more than that. Okay. But still, they are very curious about the subject we're doing here, and they're listening, I know.
So everybody's carrying around a computer when they have their smartphone with them, so that could be very useful. So I also have a question from Helene Oskarsson, who wonders, what is the next step, the next phase in this project? We are in the startup phase, but there are a lot of things are already running. But what will happen next? Maybe this is a question to more to David, but I think all participants here can give a comment on that. David, would you like to begin?
Yeah, very, very happily. A lot of material has gone onto the website in the last few days. I hope people who are listening will have a look at it and absorb it. We hope each of the special interest groups has got a forum on it, and we hope that people start to participate in those. Ask their questions, send their questions back to the experts. Just send their questions back out across Europe and see if someone can come back with an answer. But we really hope that people will engage in those forums and get a discussion going. And it's really dependent upon the community out there to make that happen. We can't, whilst we can facilitate it, we can't make it on its own. But moving forward, the project will be working on special operating procedures. in terms of picking up this issue of how you actually deal with the data and so on and take it forward. And that's the next major phase of the project, which we hope we'll be reporting on later this year.
Thank you, David. Christine?
Okay. Yeah, that's the phase I'm looking forward to most to, probably implementing the standard operating procedures on actual dairy farms and see where we get with that.
Thank you. You have been working very much with establishing this community of practice on your part, Christine. Do you think it's a successful way to work?
For now, yeah, but it's a little too soon to tell. There's always a large momentum at the beginning of a project, and it's up to us to keep that momentum going and trying to keep people interested and come up with practical, hands-on information. But for now, I'm very happy, yes.
Thank you. Anders, comment? What's
yes,
happening?
Absolutely. I mean, it's up to us who are involved in the project to start up the activities with the advisors, with the farmers, and to have meetings to discuss these things. And there will be a number of meetings throughout the couple of years now coming, the 2 years coming in the project here. So we're just looking forward, but we definitely in the project have to be active.
Okay, thank you. Now we have had almost or above 50 persons watching us on the net, on the web. So my question is, for those who have been watching now, what is our recommendations? Oh, I have a question here again from Phil Christopher. Christopher, how many farmers, numbers or percent, are ready for this now? How many years until 50% of dairy farmers are fully utilizing this technology? Now, this is for somebody with a very good foresight to answer. Does anyone dare to have a guess?
Can I make a comment on that? Although I can't answer the question. I can't answer the question directly, because clearly it's looking into the future and we don't know the answer to that. Although a huge number of farmers now are starting to use things like the movement collars. But the broad that I would like to make is that I think farmers who do not start to get involved in this technology run the risk that one day they will wake up and the world has left them behind. And that everybody else understands it and has a firm grip of it. And they're suddenly almost like technically illiterate in the world in which they're trying to operate. So I do think it's important that farmers really keep a watching brief on what is going on in this space and make a decision when they should get involved and when they should start to learn about these technologies and understand what they can contribute to the farm. Because I think there's the real risk of themselves hopelessly out of date and finding it very difficult to catch back up again.
Thank you very much, David. I think that was a very good sort of a closing recommendation from your part. Anders, do you have, well, no, I will go to Christine first, actually. Do you have, what is your recommendation to the 52 people watching us?
The recommendation, of course, I don't know their background, but I would recommend to join the community of practice and get involved. Just start talking to us, give us feedback. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? Just start talking.
Thank you. And Anders, do you have a recommendation that you would like to?
Yeah, just get engaged. I think that's the main message here. Speak about this and get the experiences from farmers and talk to farmers how they use it. I mean, the introduction of a milking robot was made a huge difference for many people, and they started using simple things like electric connectivity. And then they started discussing that, and we should start discussing more things about now of these things. It comes.
So just get going, you could say.
Absolutely.
Okay. With this, I think we close the question and answers. This is not the end. This is just the beginning of the beginning, merely the end of the beginning. I recommend you to go onto the website, register, go into one of the special interest groups, try to join a community of practice where you are, take part. And we have started a journey now. We have 2 years in front of us where this technology will be monitored and worked with. And I hope you follow our project. And with this, I close my part and I leave the word to Anders.
Yes, I'm just about to close this session here. Some very much exciting technologies are here. It's a huge learning process and exchange of experiences and find the right technology for the right farm. But this is what this project is about, to do these exchanges. And don't forget to register on the website 4d4f.eu. And I would like now and then to thank you, all the speakers, and also thank you, all the 52 of you who attended this event, and just say bye for now. Maybe see you later in another event. Thank you very much.